then push the stone off. Well, great, you did that. How did they ever cut it in the first place? How did they ever load it in the first place? And how did they build a pyramid 600 and some feet tall?
Let me tell you something, Gary. I did see a documentary where they tried this on a boat, and they only had a rock that was 1.5 tons. And it almost sunk that boat. They couldn't get it. They had a harder time. They couldn't even get it off the boat. Almost sunk the boat. Now, some of those stones, they were up to 5 tons. Some of them up to 20 tons. You're going to tell me you cut that precisely, so perfect, and you're going to pick it up, load it, put it on a boat, and carry it 20 miles or 100 miles, and then maybe hoist it up 400 feet and put it in a perfectly, aligned spot so it lines up with this tunnel that's coming up at a 45-degree angle, looking at, the Orion, and line up all these other ones. And you're using this so advanced trigonometry to do all this stuff, but yet you don't have a wheel. You haven't invented the wheel yet, and you're using copper tools.
Somebody is running the keyboard, and it's going over the air. Anyway, you really think about this. How could they have actually built the pyramid just by fitting them together perfectly? Perfectly.
Right, yeah.
Okay, without any mortar or any some type
what
of
are
compound.
The chances?
It couldn't have been done with the technology we have today, let alone with the technology they had thousands of years ago. Doesn't make logical sense. That's why I really go back to the theory that we were visited at one point. Somebody came and helped us with some technology. We don't know what the purposes of the pyramids are. Some people claim they were to harness power. The other people say, no, they're nothing but a water pump. Then you hear, oh no, this, that. We don't know. We're just speculating. That's all we're doing. But we've had help in the past as society, and for some reason, it stopped. Now, did we have something that happened where the Earth got rebooted at that point? Because the Sphinx tells us clearly something happened at one point. Something had to create the Sphinx. And let alone have the technology to do that. We didn't have it. As simple as that. We didn't have it.
Yep.
Let me throw this out to you. 800 years ago, on a mountaintop in Ethiopia, there was, I think, 9 or 11 churches built out of solid rock down, some down 100 feet down into solid rock. They removed the rock and built these churches out of solid rock. They're all finely detailed with rooms and everything. There's no evidence of where this rock went, how they did this. They're clueless of how they did this, and this was 800 years ago on the top of a mountain made out of solid rock. Not one, but 9 or 11 of these churches, and it's that boggles my mind as much as the pyramid. If you ever look into that story, it's like, how did they do this?
Well, have you seen in places of the world where these churches are built up high on these 800,000 foot, rock that goes up? That there's no way.
Yeah, it's like they have to be mountain climbers.
Yeah, to get up it. How did they build it up there? How did they take the supplies to build all this stuff up there? That doesn't make logical sense either, does it?
No, not at all. Look at some of the Mayan or the Aztec, which they Tibeki Teki and all these things. They're up on these the Alp or the Andes mountains. They're 10, 12,000 feet up. You can't even hardly breathe up there. The air is so thin and the air pressure, you can't even hardly breathe. These people hauled these, precisely cut stuff and put them up there and built pyramids and all kinds of things. How is that even possible?
I think that they had help, and I think the technology was probably some type of device that could levitate the building materials. Maybe such thing as a UFO. Or whatever. Why is there, if you go in and Google,
gotta be something,
like Africa, you'll see landing fields. It looks like a runway. And it goes for miles and miles long, like it's given directions where to land. Think about that. I mean, did they have surveyors back then that were more accurate than what we could do today? That doesn't make logical sense either. But you know what? People are naive. That you know what? If you don't know how it happened, it never happened. Duh.
Yeah, I have to.
Yep.
Like Von Däniken said, the evidence of alien visitation is all over the place. If you just open your eyes, and you know, even in Nazca Lines, there's a whole mountain, Gary. The whole top of that mountain is cut off. It looks like a runway, and there's no evidence of where all that massive material of that mountain is. Where it is, it's just disappeared, and they cut it off flat. Where did it go, and how did they even do that? You know, the manpower it takes to cut a mountain and top of a mountain off and make it disappear.
Well, you know, even here where I live, down by the Puget Sound, off of Seattle, they built an island. And how they built the island, there was a big, huge, tall hill, and it took them years to take all that, you know, dirt and put it in the bay to create what they call Harbor Island. It was man-made. It took years to do it. So think about that. And that's with technology to do it, you know, with dump trucks and manual labor and all that stuff. You trying to tell me back thousands of years ago that the civilization could do things like that, to level off a top of a mountain and create like a runway on it for like UFOs?
Exactly.
Yeah, really.
And you're right. And remember this too. You got to remember these little factors. They hadn't invented the wheel yet, and their best tools were made out of copper, and they're running around basically in loincloths. And you know, I mean, no offense, but it doesn't add up. It doesn't compute. It just doesn't.
Well, if I could go back in time a few thousand years, right, and land in a UFO, and if there is humans or whatever they are walking around, what are they going to look at? They're going to look at me as a god, aren't they?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Or you're evil.
I don't think so, because they're going to be scared of you. So, you know, if you can sit there and show, you know, force and stuff, they're going to look at you as a god. They're going to worship you. They would. That's how civilizations are. And that's how I feel we got our start. Now, again, like I said, either we were bred to be what we are, okay, or they speeded up through the DNA and modified it to create workers, to build the pyramids, to do the, you know, heavy mining of gold out of, you know, underground and all this stuff. I think at one time there was so much gold on our planet, it wasn't even underground. I mean, and I think they came here. I don't know if it was to protect their, save their planet. I mean, gold can be used for so many different things. Like in electronics, gold is the best conductor you could ever have. So that's one thing.
Yep.
So who knows? Maybe it's used to build their spacecrafts. I don't know. I'm not smart enough to think about it. I've actually interviewed a lot of PhDs and all these scientists on the show, and I'll be honest with you, I don't think they know any more than I know.
That's a good point. You know, you spoke of the Bible and stuff. Well, if you look in the Bible and read Ezekiel, where he had his encounters, where he described in detail what, and that basically, I think he's describing a UFO. I mean, he describes in detail, and it took him up and did all this and stuff, and basically he's describing a UFO. I mean, really, if you think about it, if you go read it.
Well, why would they have and found in caves drawings of humanoids wearing a spacesuit?
Right.
I mean, going back thousands of years ago, I mean, do you think they had the mental capability just to come up with that in their own head without seeing it?
And, you know, since you brought that up, there is the drawings that are carved into rock in Mayan culture, Aztec culture, Egyptian culture, and I think Chinese culture that look almost identical. It looks like they got a spacesuit on, looks like they're behind, they got controls, and they're sitting down in a craft. And they're from three different cultures, thousands of miles apart, thousands of years old, supposedly never had contact with each other. And as far as that goes, there is some carvings in Egypt that look like helicopters, submarines, and modern day planes and stuff.
Oh, yeah. You're 100% right. Now, Ryan,
yeah, it's pretty wild.
What do you think about all that? Am I just, spouting out anything that's, not making any sense if you really think about it?
No, I think you're definitely making sense for sure. I mean, it's not an easy thing to discuss, that's for sure. So that's the thing is, and also too, you got to think about point of reference too at the time. They obviously wouldn't say we were, I guess, spacemen or something like that because they didn't know too much about space. But yeah, I mean, it's not an easy topic to discuss. And it steps on a lot of people's toes,
Well, it
so
does.
That's the.
I mean, it's no worse than saying, well, gee, yes, there's UFOs out there. Or, yes, the UFOs are out
True.
there are not UFOs. They're demons disguised as UFOs. Orbs or the fallen angels. If you want to believe that, you have that right to. Again, yes, the Bible was written. Who is God? Really, think about it. Who is God? What was God? Was our God that created the universe? Really? Or was it God that came to our planet and gave us some morals of what you should or shouldn't do because they were advanced? I mean, we don't know. I guess what's going to happen is when I die and you die, and James, when you die, we'll find out. Because if we don't reboot and that's it, then that's it.
Well, let me run this by you too. How do you explain the ancient map from the Piri Reis map that shows Antarctica from the air with no ice and it's perfect shape and everything of Antarctica? How do you explain that one? And that map was produced in 1513.
Yeah, clearly they have to have some history wrong. To be honest with you, at least that's the way I look at it. I mean, they had to be up in the air too to do that. Obviously, because there's mountain ranges, there's lakes. It seems like an impossibility. To be honest, especially if they want to put the date on that map for that. So, yeah, I mean, it seems like it's impossible to have that. But clearly it's not. There it is right there. And, it was found in a book, I think, in the 1960s by a scientist, so there it is.
Interesting.
Crazy.
Now, when we come back from the break, I want you both to think about this for the next 3 minutes. If a UFO did land and you had the opportunity to go into it, or they invited you into it, friendly-wise, or maybe not, I want you to be honest with me. Would you go in or not? Let me know when we come back from break. You're listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio. We'll be back in about 2.5 minutes.
Here's the thing about new Cherry Vanilla Coke. Though cherry's named first, all the flavors taste just as great. I mean, it could have just as easily been Vanilla Cherry Coke, or it could have been Coke Cherry Vanilla. And since it's two amazing flavors of Coke, it might have been Coke Vanilla Cherry Coke or Cherry Vanilla Coke Coke. Unless you're in France, which would make it Le Coke de la Vanilla de la Cherry de la Crème.
You and I, living in the strangest of times, on my hill, watching while the cities rise. From the cleft that we left, when the sun beat it down.